Now, a lot of boxing fans, they get carried away with certain things. Like, you see someone waving to the crowd and signaling the crowd to wave them on and talking to their opponent, talking smack. And it's all an attempt to make them seem that they're more in control of the fight than they actually are. That doesn't score points. That doesn't score points in itself. Now, don't get me wrong. Elite boxers, a lot of elite all-time greats, ring greats, have studied the art of showmanship. And all what I said there. Showmanship is an integral part of a lot of boxers' psychological makeup. I'm not going to deny that. Yeah? But it's only useful if you're actually scoring points, doing damage, getting the job done. If you're just doing it and it turns out it was more style and flash than substance, then it doesn't count for nothing. You've got to make all that gamesmanship and psychological warfare count. That's what you have to do. The old concept in boxing that you have to, as the challenger, you have to take it from the champion to win the crown or the belt. It's a two-headed beast of a concept. In some ways it's bullshit, but in some ways it's absolutely right. Rosada was the aggressor. He did a lot of stalking, but the fact is, he did land some shots, but they were single shots. You tell me one time where he sort of landed 3 or 4 and had Quillen in serious dire straits. That wasn't happening. He was landing a few singles, a couple of doubles here and there, and he fought a good fight. A decent fight. You can score a 10-8 round with actually not flooring your opponent. Gabe didn't achieve that. He didn't score one 10-8 round in that fight. So that tells you he never dominated as much as you guys are saying he did. Here are the facts though. Quillen didn't wave his hands up like I'm in control. Quillen didn't do that. Quillen stuck to his boxing. Quillen kept his hands up. Quillen, like 78 Fight News said, was checking him with that left hook more often than not. That left hook put him on the canvas. That was actually a legitimately registered knockdown. That's what it was, yeah? He was knocked down. I'm dealing with clinical, critical analysis now. This is what I'm dealing with, yeah? In the record books to come, when you look at Gabe Rosada's record, it will show you in his title challenge, his losing title challenge to Peter Quillen, he was knocked down in the second round, legitimately. That's critical, statistical, accurate data. Undisputable. This is what I'm dealing with. There's no rule in boxing that says I have to look impressive to win. There's no rule that says that. And you see, boxing's a man sport, and if you're going to debate things, you have to debate like a man, not like, oh, it's hard done by him, this and that should have happened. And no, it doesn't work like that. When real men talk, nearly just doesn't quite cut it. It's kind of like if you've got children in your home and they're hungry and you go out on the road to get some food to bring back for them and you come back home and there's no food in your hand. You know what I mean? You're picking them, I look upon you and say, where's the food? Well, I nearly managed to get some food, but I wasn't quite able to get this job, or I couldn't do this and that, and but I made a really good attempt to get the food. Well, your kid starved. You know what I mean? Hey, it was a good attempt, but you didn't give it the food. That's the real shit about life. You got to take your destiny in your own hands, man. Now, I can understand if the fight went to the scorecards and you interpreted that Rosada won the fight and you're upset about it. I can understand that. Because that's down to the judges' interpretations and their adjudications, and you don't agree with it, and you're entitled to do that. All boxing fans are entitled to do that. But the fight was stopped on a legitimate punch. Yeah? None of you were saying maybe Gabe should have tightened up his defense. None of you were saying that. None of you were saying, well, maybe he should have threw more punches and tried to take him out since he was the challenger. None of you were saying that. Instead, you want to blame Rosada's misfortunes on everything else except himself. And apparently Rosada is blaming Quillen's glove manufacturer for the fact that his face got cut up like that. That's what Hella Type Zero said when he commented on my post-fight video. You know? You can't be doing... That's not real man shit. Don't settle for mediocrity. It was a good title challenge. It wasn't the best. It wasn't a robbery. Not everything's a robbery. This wasn't a robbery, like some of you are claiming. And Quillen is not obligated to give Rosada a rematch based off what happened. I'm sorry, he's not. If he decides to, it'd be good. I'd rather see him fight Golovkin. I'd rather see him fight Martinez and get a payday. I'd rather see him fight Darren Barker and get a payday. I'd rather see some of these fucking middleweights start unifying some of these belts. And like 78 said, man, you know, I'm getting kind of tired of Rosada getting title fights and then crying after he loses, you know? Yeah, it was a good attempt against Golovkin, but you didn't get there. You didn't win the fight. And then months after, was it nearly a year? I don't know how much months after. You're talking about he took the padding out of the gloves and cheated? And the thing is, I remember the post-fight interview with Golovkin. He was talking about how hard Golovkin punches, and he was giving Golovkin credit. Get the fuck out of here, man. This guy's crazy. He lost the fight by a TKO. That is a technical knockout because it was a legitimate punch that caused the injury. It wasn't no head clash. It's not no contest. It's a TKO victory. One thing I'm noticing about men these days, and I'm just going to come out and say what I have to say. I'm just going to come out and straight. I'm not going to hide nothing back. It's this single mother culture that you're being indoctrinated in, where you as a man think you can just say anything and you haven't qualified no evidence for what you're saying. You just because you're just fucking hormonal and emotional. You can't do that. You can't do that as a man. As a man, you can't do. You don't get away with that as a man. Women generally, I mean, they can get away with saying a bit of smack, and people say, oh, "Okay, listen." As a man, you will be more often than not held accountable. You have to learn as a man to clinically define things. Yeah? Not make up this story of how you want it to go, or, oh, well, we don't think that's justified. No, you've got to be able to clinically define an event that concludes itself. And what really happened. You're acting like Quillen didn't land any punches in that fight. He did land punches in that fight. He hit hard enough to drop Gabe. They were the two most recognizable punches of the fight. The knockdown and the punch that cut his face. They're the two most integral punches in that fight. Regardless of what you or how you think Gabe looked. That's the facts. And you've got to... I'm not saying you have to like the result, but you've got to be able to define it, draw a line under it and say, Gabe lost fair and square. Look at Ruslan Provodnikov in the Bradley fight. Now, let me bring the real to you. I thought he won the fight against Bradley. It's personal. Well, I thought he won. Now, like I said before in this vid, initially, when he heard the judges gave the fight to Bradley, he was upset. And yeah, you're damn right he's going to be upset. He was just, in a war, in a brutal war. He's emotional and everything. And like the judges have just decided they're going to give the fight to Bradley. I mean, even if he lost convincingly on points, I can understand why people moan about that. These are three guys outside the fight deciding the result of what happened, and they wasn't in the ring. So I can understand how they feel. But what did Provodnikov do after that? He went away, he watched the film again, calmed down, said, okay, I think Bradley won. I'm going to move on. I don't even think he believes Bradley won. I don't even think he believes it in himself. That's how real this shit is. I don't even think he believes it. But he just came out and said, I think Bradley won. Because his attitude is, I'm moving on. And next time I'm going to make no mistake when I fight for this title. Yeah? You see, he didn't allow for hangers-on to come and, oh man, you were so unlucky and you were so screwed out of it. Let's all have a nice cry here. No, he didn't allow for that bullshit to creep into his camp and his circle. He didn't allow for that. He prepared for Alvarado and what he was going to do. He said, this time, and nah, let no fucking judges decide anything. And that's what he did. That was some man shit. That was some man shit. You know what I mean? Not all this crying. We're crying for what? If it was a headbutt that ended the fight and they said it was a legitimate stoppage, I can understand. It was a punch. What are you crying for? It's over. He has to move on. Try and get Jay Leon Love back in the ring. That was a robbery for a rematch. Because even I think that Rosado won that. You know? Let it go, people. Rosado lost the fight. Legitimately. Let it go. He doesn't deserve the title. He doesn't deserve the title. He lost on a cut from a punch that he didn't defend. He doesn't deserve the title. There's no rule in boxing that says I have to look spectacular to beat you. There's no rule that says that. It's like, you know, some people are determined to try and say Vitaly Klitschko beat Lennox Lewis. No, he didn't. That wasn't no head clash that developed them severe gashes over his eye. No way. And Vitaly was tiring. Lennox hit him with the uppercut, I think, in the round before the fight was stopped. And he was hurt. He was hurt badly. I mean, people are acting like, you know, I mean, it was a one-sided beating. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. That fight, by knowledgeable boxing fans, is recognised as the last great heavyweight fight. It wasn't no one-sided beating. And ultimately, he got his face butchered up and lost. People are acting like, you know, the opponent didn't put hands on them. I mean, ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous, man. Defense and offense is your responsibility. When you go into that ring, you have your two hands like your opponent does. Your destiny is in your own hands. It's not in crying after that you deserve this. That's not what boxing's about. That's bitch shit. I mean, in all truth, you know, like I said, judges can screw fighters out of fights. Some referees can be too excessive. Like, you know, you can argue the Klitschko referee against Povetkin didn't warn Vlad enough. I mean, you can argue that. You can argue that. But the thing is, man, generally, you don't really have no arguments when you have your two fists, you know what I mean? Like, you can knock someone out and then you can end all controversy. Just knock the person out. If you're that good, knock them out. And there's no need to debate. Knock them out. Or move on. It's like, you know, recently, Duran and Leonard, the no-match fight, has come back to make a few headlines. Because Duran is now saying, I didn't actually say no mess. You know, which is very minor detail. The thing is, Duran, it's too late now. That fight is going down in history as no mess. No more. And there's nothing you can do to change the perception of that. And you see, this is why BK said this is the worst offence a boxer could do, is quitting in mid-ring. I understand where BK was coming from. I understand. Even though I did defend Duran, I understand what he's saying. Because you can see why BK said that. Because 30 years on, Duran is still working on damage, limitation to his reputation from what happened in the ring. But the fact is, he quit. He quit. I mean, you can say Duran is this ring warrior. I still think he's a warrior, but he quit. What are you going to tell me? He quit. He quit. And his reputation is forever going to be sullied. I still think he's a legend, but like I said, he has red flags on the resume. That is a red flag. And people try and make excuses for Duran. Oh, Leonard just ran, you know. He fought like a pussy. I mean, he fought like a pussy, you admit. So you make it worse. He fought like a pussy and made this alpha male slugger quit. And he fought like a pussy. You make it worse. You need to think about what you say. You make it sound even worse. The thing is, right, when Duran quit, almost immediately he turned around and tried to fight again because he realised what he had done. In front of the whole world, he realised the implications and impact of what his action was not only going to have in the short-term period while he was in the ring, but long-term. He just started sinking in the implications of his actions. But it was too late. It was too late. He quit. He quit the fight. You know, after the Duran camp tried to say he had stomach cramps, which is one of the hardest medical things to prove. That's why they went for stomach cramps. You know? But Duran, in 2013, can't accept it. And his fans can't accept it. You have to accept it. It's in the record books. No mass. Quit. As simple as that. He's still a legend, in my opinion. But he quit. He quit. It's like Montel Griffin. Or is it Griffiths? I'll stick with Griffin. In an interview, when he told me that the only reason Roy Jones beat him was because HBO wouldn't let him warm up. They tried to get him into the ring really quickly, like it was a setup. I'll leave the whole interview in the description box below. And, you know, I was listening to him, but I just say, I just don't buy this one, Montel. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. You know, to me, it just looked like Roy was just on his game that night, and whatever he didn't do right in the first fight that he had with Montel, he did it right in the second one, and he knocked him out. It blew him away. And there's nothing Montel can do about the highlight reels of that first round knockout. Roy was devastating that night. I listened to Montel speaking, but all what was in my mind was Roy knocking him down 3 times and George Foreman commenting on what a brilliant performance it was by Roy. And there's nothing he can do to change that perception. There's nothing he can say or do. Now I'm going to round off this video. Just read about Gabe Rosado. He's claiming that the 3 judges were incompetent in 2 of them not scoring him around. And, okay, fair enough. But the fact is, the judges weren't necessary in this fight. It was a TKO. It didn't go to points. The judges' scorecards didn't come into play. So what are you going to suspend the judges for? It didn't come into play. You've got to complete all the 12 rounds before you can complain about scorecards. You didn't get there. I think he's trying to elicit some kind of sympathy so he can be the people's champ or the boxer who's not getting a fair break. But that's not the truth. That's just not the truth. That's not the truth. There's no one against Gabe Rosado, yeah? As far as I'm concerned. There was no judge who came in the ring and cut his eye, or a referee, or somebody who worked in the state commission or for the WBO. Nobody came in there and cut his eye. And for anyone who said it wasn't a bad cut, it was a bad cut. I'm looking forward to seeing Quillen fighting Golovkin. I don't care if you say he hasn't got a chance. Let's see. I don't think Bradley can beat Floyd, but let's see if he can. He deserves a shot at it.